Morning to all. So I am Gaurav Kumar. I'm currently working as assistant manager in market operation ERLDC. Uh, Basically, I have around 2.5 years of experience here in ERLDC. For 1 year, I was in real-time operations, and for the last 1.5 years, I'm in this market operations, looking after scheduling and dispatch, and basically energy scheduling. So basically, without wasting much of a time, let me start the session. I hope the screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
So, as Sir has already explained a bit about the need of scheduling and dispatch, I will just reiterate some of the facts. First of all, here there is two terms. One is scheduling and another is dispatch. So basically, this scheduling has very greater significance in terms of both in operational aspect as well as commercial aspect. So basically, scheduling. What is scheduling? So as you might have already got a basic overview of the Indian power system. So we have grid connected entities, both injecting entities as well as drawing entities. In injecting entities, we have generators and other types of in generators. We have thermal power plants, hydropower plants, gas, RE, solar, wind. All types of injecting entities are there. In and drawal, we have states, bulk consumers, etc. So basically, all these grid connected entities, these are connected to the Indian power system, Indian grid. So basically, uh, uh, throughout the day of operation, they will be some of the injecting entities will be injecting power, and other states they will be drawing power. So there should be an I should say that there should be a planned injection or planned or so every entity should have a certain set of behavior in which it should draw or inject power. So basically, scheduling means that your desired injection or drawal profile, and dispatch is the execution of that desired injection or drawal. That is the basic significance of scheduling and dispatch. Now coming to the what is the need for this energy scheduling. So as already a bit has been discussed by Sir, like first of all, we need to have a balance of supply and demand. So a injecting entity who is injecting, he should know what quantum he should inject in order to maintain that supply demand balance. Similarly, a state which is drawing, he should know what he should draw in order to maintain the balance. So that is required for supply demand balance as well as for grid stability. So basically, now I will move on to the control area jurisdiction for these generating stations and buyers. So as you already know that these grid connected entities, these are generators, buyers. So these are to be scheduled by load dispatch centers. So these load dispatch centers are basically regional load dispatch center and state load dispatch centers. In India, there are five regional load dispatch center and one national load dispatch center. Like regional load dispatch centers, we have Eastern Regional Load Dispatch Center, then Western, Northern, Southern, Northeastern, and at the central level, we have National Load Dispatch Center. Similarly, for each state, there is a State Load Dispatch Center. So, like that, we have. So each generator or each buyer, or I should say state, or each injecting entity or drawing entity, each entity is scheduled by these RLDCs or SLDCs. So the control area jurisdictions of these generating stations, whether RLDC will schedule the generator or SLDC will schedule that is to be demarcated. There should be a demarcation for this control area jurisdiction. So this is done on the basis of their connectivity. As per the present IEGC, Indian Electricity Grid Code, those generating stations or those entities which are connected to basically intrastate transmission system and ISTS transmission system, basically STU transmission system and CTU network. So basically, those generators which are having a connectivity of more than 50% to the interstate ISTS transmission system, they are scheduled by the RLDCs. and other generating stations or those control areas which are having a STU connectivity of 50% or more, or more than 50%, they are scheduled by SLDC. So this is the basic bifurcation of the control area jurisdiction for these uh, generating stations and basically injecting entities and drawaway entities. Now I will move on to the basically how the schedule is formulated for a generating stations. So as you know that we are currently basically the scheduling, the basic philosophy of scheduling is that it is driven by the demand of the buyers. So this is the there is a scheduling software basically for both the injecting entities as well as the drawaway entities. So for preparation of the schedule of a generating stations, there are certain inputs required. I will tell you the timelines in the subsequent slides where you will see how the complete scheduling happens on a day-ahead basis. So first of all, these are certain components which are required for preparation of a schedule of a generator. So schedules are prepared for every 15 minutes throughout the day. So we have 24 hours in a day. So for if every 15 minutes, different schedules are prepared. So like we have 96 time blocks. So 24 into 4, we have 96 time blocks. There will be 96 different scheduled injections or scheduled draw for an grid connected entity. So for preparation of schedules, uh, declared capability of the generator is required. That is the one input. Second is the technical constraints of the generator based on which it should be scheduled, like ramp rate. Next, there are certain scheduling components like based on this declared capability, uh, the beneficiaries or the buyers, basically the sellers, injecting entities, and the buyers, they will be having certain contracts, electricity contracts, based on which the scheduling is to happen. So against every contract, the seller will declare its capability, like how much it can inject, and based on that capability, entitlement will be prepared for the buyer, and based on that entitlement, the buyer will give the requisition is basically the requirement, like how much of a power it foresees in the upcoming time, how much it wants to schedule from that particular generating station. That quantum he will put as requisition, that is called requisition. So this is requisition by buyers against contracts scheduled under GNA. So next is requisition by buyers against TGNA. So we have certain types of contracts which are to be scheduled under GNA or TGNA. GNA, TGNA are basically access to ISTS for this is the basically one of the prerequisite for scheduling. Next I will move on to this is the basic philosophy for scheduling preparation of generating stations. I will when I will explain the timelines, it will be more clear. It might not be getting clear at right now, but when I will explain the timelines, it will be clear. Next for buyers. So basically the for buyers, one thing I just want to get it clear that the schedule of a generating stations is not in the hand of the generator. Basically, it is driven by the buyer. Based on the requisition of the buyers, the schedule of the generating stations is prepared. Whereas a buyer has more flexibility in finalization of its schedule, it can finalize his schedules based on his requisitions. Basically, although there can be certain instances that based on the technical constraints of the generator, it may not get its desired schedule, but overall, buyers have greater flexibility to decide its schedule as compared to a generator. So as next, now I will just talk a bit. I will just give an example of how the commercial settlement takes place through this scheduling. So this is basically a generator who has been given a schedule of 1000 megawatt. The schedule is 1000 megawatt, and its injecting is 900 megawatt. So in this case, what is happening is that although its desired injection was 1000 megawatt, but it's injecting 900 megawatt. So he is under ejecting by 100 megawatt. Similarly, this is a buyer whose schedule was 550 megawatt, but its actual draw is 600 megawatt. So in this case, it's overdrawing by 50 megawatt. So here you can see that why scheduling is important, because basically scheduling is required to maintain grid stability, to maintain supply demand balance. So since here there is a misbalance of 100 megawatt and here is an imbalance of like 50 megawatt. So this imbalance is to be settled. Okay, this imbalance is settled through this deviation settlement mechanism. There is a penalty for deviation from its schedule. So the grid connected entities are like uh, they are to follow their schedules, and if you don't follow their schedules, they are penalized through this DSM mechanism. This session will be taken in the next this in the next class. I'm just giving a just brief of this. Now I will move on to this scheduling timeline. So as already I have just discussed a bit. So basically, the in the Indian power system, the scheduling, as per the Indian Electricity Grid Code, the scheduling takes place on day-ahead basis. So we have first of all, on day ahead basis, like on if D is the day of the scheduling I'm taking, so D minus one, like one day before the day of the scheduling, the DC declaration by generating station, uh, DC is to be declared by the generating stations. So DC is basically for the next day, what is the capability of the generating stations to inject. Like suppose a generating station is having installed capacity of say 1000 megawatt. So up to how much it can generate for the next day, it will give that declaration. It will give the declaration in the scheduling portal uh, by 6 hours of D minus 1. These this declaration will be for all the 96 time blocks as discussed. Like for all the time 96 time blocks, it will give its declaration. So based on this declaration, the entitlements of the beneficiaries will be prepared. So basically, these generating stations will be having certain contracts with its buyer. There will be long-term contracts, short-term contracts, medium-term contracts, all sorts of contracts will be there. So based on this DC, entitlements will be prepared. Entitlement is basically the quantum, the maximum requisition quantum that the buyer can avail from that particular generating stations. It is the maximum requisition that can be availed. So based on this entitlement which is prepared, and the after this entitlement preparation, buyer will give its requisition in the scheduling portal itself against this entitlement. And after that, at 8:15, uh, basically the schedules will be prepared for beneficiaries.
सर वॉइस नहीं आ रही.
Hello, I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
ये कहाँ पर ब्रेक हुआ है? Can you just tell? Yeah. Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Uh, till where I was, you heard me?
The 7 slide.
Hello.
7 slide, sir.
7 slide. Just a minute. Okay. Uh, so you heard okay, just a minute. So I will just restart this slide, 7 slide now, scheduling timeline. Okay. So by 6 hours, the DC is declared by the generating stations. It is the capability of the generating stations for the day ahead, like how much it can inject. For all the 96 blocks, the declaration is given, and based on this DC, the entitlement is prepared for the beneficiaries. So the generating stations are having certain contracts with its buyers. long term, short term, medium term contracts. That sort of contracts will be there, and based on that, the entitlement is prepared. And entitlement is the maximum requisition maximum quantum that that a beneficiary can avail from the generating stations. And based on this entitlement, beneficiary will give its requisition by 8 hours, and by 8:15 there will be a congestion check that will be done by the RLDCs. So if there is if the certain amount, if the power that is scheduled, it cannot flow through the transmission lines, in that case there shall be curtailment. And basically and the by 8:15 RLDC will intimate that there is transmission constraint, and after this transmission constraint is intimated to the RLDC, the by 8:30 the SLDCs are given a opportunity to revise their equations, uh, such as to reduce the congestion to so that there is no congestion. Like by 8:30 hours, the beneficiaries revise their equations. So by 9 hours, RLDC shall issue the final GNA schedule for the beneficiaries as well as for the your injecting entities. After if there is some modification required, like any cut element is required, after that the final schedules are issued after taking care of the congestion. So till that time, we finalize the GNA schedules. So after that, you have like TGNA schedules are finalized, and like 9:15 hours, the question for intrastate TGNA grantees by SLDCs are given, and by 9:45 the advanced TGNA schedules are finalized. Then from 10 to 11 we have day ahead market. Like if certain beneficiaries are having more requirement more than the contracted power, then they can go to dam market for further procurement of power and scheduling. And post that, uh, this dam schedules are finalized by like 13 hours of D minus 1. And post that, we have exigency TZN applications. So these GNA TZN are certain components of the scheduling which are to be incorporated. So after all these activities, the RLDC issues the final schedules, like I would say like 2 time blocks, 3 time blocks before the start of the delivery date. These schedules are finalized. Like then we have real-time market, SCD, ancillary services. All these are the scheduling components. After this, the schedules are finalized. This is the like more of a detailed breakup uh, of the schedules finalization. Okay, I will just move on to just a minute. Okay, I will just discuss this scheduling timeline for a bit. So let me tell you that. So this is uh, T7 is the delivery time block. So how the schedules are prepared for this? This is I think for the perspective of the generating stations, how the schedules for the generating station is finalized. So basically, this for the delivery period of 00 hours to 0:15 hours, I would say the first time block of the day, how the scheduling like schedules are finalized for a generating stations. So by like 1 hour 15 minutes before the delivery period, the all those generators which are having contracts with their beneficiaries, that schedules are getting finalized. So basically, as you all know that the generator schedules are decided by the beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries will give their requisition, and based on their requisition, the power is scheduled to the generator. So the for delivery period of this 00 hours, the last time instance till which the beneficiary can give its requisition or revise its requisition is like 2025, like 1 hour 15 minutes. So till that time, the beneficiary schedule to the generator is finalized. After that, there is like, just a minute. Hmm. After that, this is the window for RTM. So suppose that after this beneficiary's requisition, there is some URS power. Like, what is URS power? URS power is basically DC minus schedule. Suppose like you have a capability of 1000 and the schedule from beneficiary is 800. So there is a URS of 200. So you have a capability to generate 200 megawatt extra. Like 800 you will be generating for your beneficiaries, and 200 megawatt is the URS power. So that URS power you can bid in the RTM market. This is real-time market. Here you can sell the remaining power after fulfilling your contracted capacity obligations. And this RTM schedules that will be incorporated like in this T3 block. So T7 block is the your delivery period. T1 block, the schedules got finalized for your beneficiaries. T2 blocks is RTM window for 15 minutes. And then T3 blocks, you will get the RTM schedules. And after that, there are like other schedule components like SCD, TRS. What is SCD? SCD is basically security constant economic dispatch. Basically, it is a kind of an optimization of schedules. Like we have multiple generators. Each generator will be having its variable cost. No? Each generator will be having its variable cost, and based on this variable cost, this merit order stack is prepared for SCD. SCD is basically as you go by the full form, security constant economic dispatch. So this is basically economic dispatch. That means the less cost generators asked to be uh, given more preference in terms of schedule. So their generation is to be given up as they get SCD up dispatch if there is margin available for them. And those generators which are having higher price, that they are giving SCD down. So their generation is gotten down in order to maximize economic efficiency. So this is SCD. And then we have TRS dispatch. This TRS dispatch is mainly governed by your frequency. And suppose that as already I told you that there could be, even though the generators have got their schedules, buyers have got their schedules. So because some of the grid connected entities may deviate, so there could be deviations. And because of these deviations, there could be a like under injection or overdraw, which can impact the grid frequency. And if like suppose the, as you all know that the nominal grid frequency is 50 hertz. So if the frequency goes below 50 hertz, like it goes to 49.8, 49.7, in that case, we will be dispatching TRS up. Stations, it will be scheduled only to a generator. And suppose similarly, if the frequency goes above 50 hertz, like 50.1, 50.0, in that case, TRS down will be dispatched. Okay, to increase the overall generation, or increase or decrease the generation to contain the frequency. This is basically for containment of frequency. This SCD is for economic efficiency, economic operations, and this TRS is for more for TRS schedule is more for like grid security point of view. These schedules are there. So after all these schedules, SCD, TRS, the schedule of a generator is finalized like one block before the delivery periods. It gets finalized. So moving on to the evolution of the grid code. So basically, this scheduling and dispatch code, we have a certain set of regulations called grid code. So our Indian power system is governed by these set of regulations. So currently, this IGC to 2023 is in effect. Okay. So this is the centralized web-based energy scheduling software. This is the scheduling software of the RLDCs, all the RLDCs and NLDCs, where the scheduling happens. So I'm just taking an example of a state. So this is one state, DVC. Okay. So for like, as you can see, for 8th January, I have taken an example of like how the schedules are prepared for a entity. So this is like for 8th January. So as you can see that there are various components like ISGS, URS, OAGNA, OATGNA, OAPX, and this total final. So summation of all these components give you the final net schedule. This is, as you can see that these are the time blocks 1, 2, 3, 4 up to like 96 time blocks will be there. So for each time block there will be a different schedule, and like here you can see that the final schedule is like -1228.07. So in that case this negative sign signifies injection, that this DVC is a control area. So in the first time block its target injection is 1228 megawatt. So if it deviates from this scheduled injection, in that case it will be penalized through DSM. Okay. So this ISGS component is there. ISGS component is basically for those contracts which are scheduled through central generating stations. Then URS component is for if suppose that DVC has multiple has contracts with multiple central generating stations through share allocations. In that case, if if it has let's say DVC has a contract with generator A, and if it has taken its full share of power from generator A, and if it wants to avail more power from the same generating stations, then it can schedule that quantum under URS, given that other beneficiaries of that generating stations have surrendered some quantum. In that case, that quantum will be scheduled under URS. This component is for that. Then we have OAGNA, OATGNA. Basically, OAGNA is basically all those contracts which are scheduled under general network access. And similarly, for contract scheduled under TGNA, temporary general network access. Then we have OAPX. OAPX comprises of your DAM and RTM. uh, DAM is day ahead market and RTM is real time market. So power exchange schedules are reflected here. Then we have REMC contracts. Basically, what are REMC? REMC is basically those contracts. Basically, there are RE generators, multiple RE generators. So these RE generators are basically scheduled through this REMC, and these REMC schedules are reflected here in WBS. Then we have this ACE, SCD, and SCOC. ACE is basically your as already mentioned, ancillary shortfall or TRS, as we have discussed. This is for grid security point of view. Then we have SCD for economic efficiency, and this SCVC is a security constant unit commitment, that is for your committing units. I will discuss it later in the subsequent slides. It will be discussed. So summation of this, all these schedules give the final schedules. Okay. Moving on to the prerequisite for scheduling. Basically for scheduling, the basic requirement is that every grid connected entity should have access to the access to the transmission network. So for either injecting or drawing power, first of all you should have access, like you should have the right to access the Indian grid. So for that access is given in the form of like GNA and TGNA. GNA is basically general network access. So you're having this, just look at this term access. So you're accessing the grid. TGNA is temporary general network access. So this GNA is given for more than 11 months, and basically the the buyers, the beneficiaries who avail GNA, they pay the GNA charges for accessing the transmission network. Similarly, there is TGNA, as the name suggests, temporary GNA. So it is for a shorter duration. So if your requirement is like for a shorter duration to schedule power, so in that case you will be requiring the access for a shorter time. Access is nothing but like booking transmission charges for scheduling purpose. So this is one requirement for scheduling, that you should have GNA or TGNA, and then the valid contracts. So sellers and buyers should have valid contracts for scheduling. All these requirements are there. So next I will just move on to this DC declaration of generating stations. So as already I have explained in the timeline that the generating stations are to declare their DC by 6 hours of T minus 1. So they will be giving their capability for the day hit, like how much they can inject for for each generator. It is having its installed capacity, say 1000 megawatt is the installed capacity. So the maximum DC it can declare is like installed capacity minus its auxiliary consumption. So it will be having some auxiliary consumption to run the unit, and after deducing that auxiliary consumption, it's X bus, like how much it will be actually injecting into the grid. That is, at that point it has to declare its DC. Similarly, for hydro generating stations can declare their DC up to 110% of their installed capacity minus auxiliary consumption. For that, no additional GNA is required. Like already told that, suppose the generating stations wants to inject power for 1000 megawatt. So in that case, it has to have a connectivity and deemed GNA of 1000 megawatt. If it doesn't have a connectivity or deemed GNA, it cannot inject power. So similarly for hydro generating stations, suppose a hydro generating station of 500 megawatt is there, so it can inject up to 500 megawatt. But suppose there is a spillage condition, like in a rainy season, like for a runoff river hydropower plants. In that case, they are allowed to inject up to 110% of their IC minus auxiliary consumption. So in that case, even if they have a connectivity of 500, they can inject like 550 megawatt. They are allowed to schedule, even though the GNA for the balance quantum is not present. So this basically this is one thing. Then these generating stations, one apart from the DC declaration, they also have to declare their ramp rate, like how much they can change their generation per block. So as you all know that there are 96 time blocks. So for each time block, there will be a schedule. So from one time block to another time block, the schedule variation, there should be a limit to the schedule variation. Like beneficiary, suppose that for one time block, it has given a requisition of 500 megawatt, and the next time block, it cannot give it to zero. Like there are certain technical constant for the generating station. It cannot ramp down or ramp up at a very higher rate. So as per the grid code, each generating station should have a minimum ramp rate of for thermal coal based generating stations 1% per minute. So like for one time block is basically 15 minutes. So 15% of its normative, it should be able to ramp down. So basically for a 1000 megawatt plant, it should able to ramp down or ramp up at a rate of 150 megawatt per time block. Similarly, for gas generating stations have a higher ramp rate as compared to coal. It gives more flexibility, basically to the beneficiaries as well as for grid operations. Like when we require more power, or ramping or ramping down is required based on to for containment of frequency. And for hydro generation, they have a ramp rate up to 10%, very high ramp rate. So they offer a lot of flexibility. Again, for thermal generating stations, there are certain constants as well, like they cannot be scheduled below their minimum turn down level. So for every thermal generating stations, there is a minimum turn down level of 55%. so they cannot go below 55%. However, for like hydro generating stations or like there and other generating stations hydro, especially in hydro generating stations, there is no such restriction of MDTL, so that it gives more flexibility. Now, coming on to the DC revision by forced due to forced outage. So there can be an instance like for day ahead basis, the generator has declared its capability for the next day. But what happens is like suppose a generating plant has multiple units. So in real time, there could be an outage of an unit due to certain like there can be many instances that in real time the unit trips and the generator is not capable of injecting the required power which it had declared on the day ahead basis. So in that case, the DC which is had declared on day ahead basis, it can revise that DC. So that DC can be revised, but there is a certain timeline. Like if suppose your unit has tripped and you want to revise your DC, in that case, you can revise your DC like from for the next uh, uh, after like 1 hour 30 minutes or 1 hour 45 minutes. There is some timeline. After only that, the DC revision is allowed. And after this DC revision, the entitlement of the beneficiaries will be revised, and based on the revised entitlement, the beneficiaries will be giving their revised requisition corresponding to the new entitlement and corresponding to the new entitlement, so that the schedule of the generator is revised. Why this DC revision is required? This DC revision is required like suppose generator has given some DC and its unit trips in the real time, and if the schedule it's getting is more than its capability, and obviously it cannot generate that much. So in that case, it may face penalty in the form of deviation settlement mechanism. So that's why revision of DC is required for the generating stations uh, for forced outage. Next is the restriction of schedules up to its effective GNA quantum. So I already, as I told you that each control area, each state has to schedule power within its access. Access is GNA and TGNA. Okay, so if a control area has exceeded like it has given more schedule as compared to what access it has, so in that case there will be a restriction of schedules. The schedules over and above this access will be curtailed in order to bring it within the access. So this is done. Next is the security constant unit commitment. As in the initial slides, there was one example I have taken in the scheduling of the portal. There was one SCUC schedules. So what is this SCUC? So there can be an instance like let me take an example. So let's say there is a generating station. Okay, so if you go by the present trend, presently what happens that during solar hours we have surplus generation. So in surplus generation, because we have like almost solar generation has been integration has been continuously happening. So during solar hours we have surplus generation, and during night time or non-solar hours, solar hours is basically your 6 hours to 18 hours during the daytime. Then after that we have non-solar hours. So during non-solar hours we have shortfall of generation. There we want units to be on bar, but during surplus time like solar hours, there can be instance when the generating stations are not getting its MDTL schedule. So I already told you that like every generating station has thermal generating station has certain constants, like it cannot go below its 55% of its on-board normative. So suppose a generating stations has got a schedule below MDTL during solar hours, whereas it has got its full schedule during non-solar hours. Why it will get its full schedule during non-solar hours? Because there is generation shortfall. So basically the beneficiaries, whatever power they are getting, they will try to schedule as much power as they can during non-solar hours. So that way generators will be getting more schedules during non-solar hours. But solar hours, because there is RE, lots of RE is there also. Based on the demand pattern, there can be instances when the beneficiary's requirement is very less. So if its requirement is very less, then it will schedule less power from the generator. In that case, what will happen? Schedules of the generator will go below minimum turndown level. And actually what the generator cannot go below its MDTL. So there comes an issue with the generator, that it although it wants to remain on bar, it wants to continue injection to the grid, but because it cannot go below below MDTL, there could be instances that it may want to go for reserve shutdown. So what is the reserve shutdown? So basically, if the schedules of the generator goes below MDTL, it can opt for reserve shutdown, like it can go off bar. But this, if the generator goes for reserve shutdown, then it could be detrimental to the grid, as during non-solar hours there could be instances when we require power to support the grid. For grid to support the grid, we want these units to be on, but we don't want these units to be off bar. So in that case, SCUC support is provided, like security constant unit commitment support is provided to these generating stations, to so such that during solar hours, when the schedules through the beneficiaries is below MDTL, in that case we give some additional schedules to these generating stations to bring their schedules up to the MDTL, so that they don't get penalized, they don't over inject. So commercially, this is how we manage it. And basically incremental schedules from generator under minimum turndown level to bring schedule till same level. And as you already know that since this SCUC and SCD, both in both cases, the net generation or net generation is not changing. So for some generators, if you are giving them SCUC up, then we will be giving SCUC down as well to certain generators. So this is what is SCUC schedules. So this is applicable for a generating station as well only. For SCUC schedules are basically for generating stations. Next is the unit shutdown. Unit shutdown is nothing but your reserve shutdown, as already discussed. If a generator is getting schedules below MDTL for a certain duration of time, then it can opt to go for this reserve shutdown. In that case, we can provide support through SCUC to bring it on par, to keep it on par, basically. Now, there is another thing, like generator scheduling from alternate sources of power. So as already I told you that in case of a forced status of a unit, if the unit trips, in that case, the generator can revise its DC. Okay, it can revise its DC, and based on this revised DC, the revised entitlement will be prepared, and based on the revised entitlement, the revised requisition will be punched by the beneficiaries. However, beneficiary, the generator can go for an alternate option. So what it will do is, instead of revising its DC, it will purchase power from the either the market or from other contracts, and it will give it to the beneficiary. So in this case, what is happening? Like suppose, let me tell you an example. A 1,000 megawatt plant is there. It is having a schedule of 1,000 megawatt. It is having two units of 500 megawatt each. It's one unit trips, and basically in that case it can generate up to 500 megawatt, but its schedule is 1,000 megawatt. So there is a shortfall of 500 megawatt. So the overall supply obligation of this generator is 1,000 megawatts. 1,000 megawatt supply obligation is there. 500 megawatt supply obligation it will be fulfilling through its one unit which is on bar. Another unit has tripped. So the remaining 500 supply obligation, that it will fulfill through buying power from either market or through some other bilateral contract with other sellers. So in that way also it can fulfill its supply obligation. So in that case, if it does so, in that case there will be no penalty for under injection to the generating station. So this is one option given to the generating stations. that it can buy power from the market and sell that power to the beneficiaries. Now, there is one more thing like scheduled revision in interest of grid security. So as you already know that from the generator perspective, generator can revise its schedule in case of forced outage. If the unit trips, in that case, the generator can revise the schedules. Now, the system operators, basically system operators are RLDCs, SLDCs. These all can also revise the schedules based on the certain conditions, mm, in the interest of grid security. Uh, in like if there is some transmission constraint, like each transmission corridor has certain ATC and TTC. ATC is basically available for capability, is the maximum quantum of power that can be scheduled through the corridor. uh, if suppose the ATC does not permit scheduling of power of in that case, the quantum of power over and above ATC, that will be curtailed, and this curtailment is done based on this priority. So basically all those uh, basically for in a transmission corridor, there will be schedules like TGNA schedules, then GNA schedules. In TGNA schedules, basically we have like basically just I will just tell a bit about TGNA. TGNA is like two types of TGNA is there. One is the bilateral TGNA, another is the collective TGNA. So what is bilateral TGNA? Bilateral is TGNA is basically if you're doing a contract with another matlab seller and buyer are doing some contracts, and these contracts in basically buyer and seller both are known. Suppose I know the buyer, I know who is the buyer, and similarly the buyer knows who is the seller. These contracts are basically buyer and these contracts are basically bilateral contracts, both buyer and seller are known. What are then another is type of TGNA is collective TGNA. In collective TGNA is basically market contracts, DAM, RTM. In that case, suppose seller has bid his URS power and he's got a schedule. So in that case, he doesn't know his buyer who has bought his power. He only knows that he has to index. He's the seller. He doesn't know his buyer. Similarly, for a beneficiary, he bids, he procures power from the market. He doesn't know who is the seller. So basically, in collective market, both buyer and seller are not known. So for so this is the like basic of TGNA. So for this like curtailment, first of all the bilateral schedules under TGNA are curtailed, then DAM curtailment is there, RTM curtailment is there, then after that GNA schedules are curtailed. So in that case you just notice one thing is that GNA schedules are having a higher priority over TGNA schedules. So in day head also, as you were seeing that like 6 hours DC was declared by generator. Based on that, entitlement was prepared and requisitions were given. All those requisitions were given under GNA first. So first of all, those GNA schedules are getting incorporated. Those GNA schedules are flowing through the transmission corridors. After that, TGNA schedules are coming up based on the available margin. So in terms of scheduling of power, GNA schedules have higher priority over TGNA schedules. Even in case of curtailment, if there is curtailment, in that case, first of all, those TGNA schedules will be curtailed, and after that, GNA schedules will be curtailed. So this is all from my side. If you have any questions, you can ask. I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
आपका कुछ query है? If you have any questions, you can ask.
If anyone has any doubt on this topic, like basic doubts, they can ask.
Sir, I missed the part about what is DC. DC is basically declared capability, is the maximum amount of maximum capability of a generating stations to inject.
This DC figure actually varies. Actually, in a particular day, the generators the day I mean the day before the day ahead basis, they give the capability like tomorrow I will be able to generate this much of quantum, and that quantum is also subject to a maximum value. So let's say one generator is 500 megawatt. So out of 500 megawatt, there will be some auxiliary consumption will be there. Auxiliary consumption, let's say 6%. So if you subtract, then it will come around 30. So you subtract, so 470. So 470 megawatt maximum it can generate. Now it is up to the generator that it can give any value starting from let's say in minimum value will be up to 55%, and the maximum value they can give up to 470 megawatt. Let's say they can give that no, I have some problem in my ID fan, or I have some problem, so I'll not be able to generate 470 megawatt. I will be generating 400 megawatt. This value in the day ahead basis the generators will be giving. So this is basically declaring capability, declare capability of the generator.
Okay, sir.
Any other doubts? In the day also, in the running day also, that he was explaining about partial outage. Like if there is any, let's say one generator is running and it has already given that for 70 megawatt, I will be generating. And in the running day, there is some force measure like one FD fan is stripped or ID fan is stripped or some coal mill outage is there. So certain areas we consider that they will be able to revise their DC downwards, and also certain cases if we, let's say it was the some problem was there and that problem has been rectified, so they want to again revise. So that also we allow. We do not the DC to be the installed capacity, because there will be first the auxiliary consumption part that has to be deducted, and besides all the generating capabilities who are like all the thermal ones, they are able to generate up to 105% of this MCR. Means MCR means machine continuous rating. So they are able to generate up to 105%, but that 5% extra is the margin for primary frequency response. So whenever there will be any deep frequency dip, so that 5% of what the margin that has been kept, that will be utilized to restore the frequency. So that 5% we do not count while doing the DC, while they are giving the DC. Uh, so that's all only. Yes, any other thing? This is one of the major areas of work in RLDC. ISTS and intrastate, I hope everyone is able to understand now. इसमें कोई डाउट है क्या किसी को? ISTS और इंट्रास्टेट में? Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to the next area, which is deviation settlement mechanism. I have already given